Shavua Tov. Hi, Peggy.
Hello, Bernie. How are you?
Good. Thank you. We got your thank you note. Of course, we were going to come with or without that note, but thank you for sending it.
That's the least we could do to show our appreciation.
How's Ellie doing?
Okay. Yeah. Yum, yum, like they say.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I called to make an appointment and they said that you're going to be out of town for 2 weeks.
Really? 2 weeks in a row?
That's what they said.
I'm going during Yeshiva week. We're joining Shoshana and the kids going on a cruise.
Oh, where?
The Caribbean.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Enjoy.
Caribbean, yeah, Caribbean. Yeah.
Enjoy the grandchildren.
Yeah. Tammy, say hello to Tammy. She's a little down and out about a problem she's having with her hip.
Hip and back.
Oh, no.
Club misery.
What's the matter?
What?
What's going on?
Did you do an MRI, Tammy?
I did the MRI. I have a double tear in my left hip, the labrum.
Oh, boy. So who should you go to?
I went already. I'm going Monday morning to somebody in Perth. I'll see.
You're going to where? To somebody what?
At
USC.
USC.
Oh, at USC. That's where Esty went, right?
Right.
From the
I don't know another doctor in Cedars yet.
Are you talking about a hip doctor?
Yeah.
A Dr. Pennenberg?
Yeah, but he's probably very busy. Where is he?
He's I think he's affiliated with Cedar Sinai, and his office is really not far.
Yeah, no. Well, let me see what happens Monday morning. It's
I
not
could send-
easy
I
to
could
get
send- I'll
an
send his
appointment
number.
with these doctors. You understand? They're all busy.
They are busy while you want immediate.
Yeah, I'm supposed to go away. If I don't get some sort of a shot, I ain't going anywhere.
What's how?
Tov.
What pasuk?
Chapter 15, pasuk 15 or 16?
Chapter 15.
Chapter 15. No, chapter 14. No?
No, we're in 15.
Oh, we're in chapter
15 already?
chapter 15.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Maria. Oh,
Tesvo or Tezayin. I'm not sure which one you're on.
That's Zion.
Tessayan. Tessayan.
That's Zion.
What pasuk?
So
Wait. Just wait. Okay.
Perek Tesvav Pasuk Tet Zion. So Perek Tetvav 15 Pasuk Tet Zion. Umilchama hayta bein Asa Melech Yehuda ubein Baasha Melech Yisrael kol yameim. Baasha was the Israelite king who ruled after Nadav, the son of Yerovam. And Asa is the tzaddik that we've been talking about, who's a righteous Judean king. And there were constant battles between Asa and Baasha throughout their reign. Pasuk Yud Zayin. Vayal Baasha Melech Yisrael al Yehuda. So much so that the Baasha, the king of Israel, invaded Judea. Vayiven et harama. He built a tower opposite the walls of Yerushalayim. This is how they used to siege a city. They would build a tower next to a wall, and then they would throw stones and eventually try to break the wall. And also to prevent coming and going from Yerushalayim. And Baasha was a weak king, at least militarily. He was not able to prevent Baasha from coming and doing this. In Yirmiyahu, it talks about a bore, a pit that Asa Melech built to help the Ole Regalim, that they would have water. We'll see in the time of Yirmiyahu, there were people who were killed in the revolt against Gedaliah, where we have Tzom Gedaliah. That pit was built by Asa. One of the reasons Baasha built this Ramah is also to prevent Jews from making Aliyah to Yerushalayim. The Sefer Hasidim says, "La'olam yitpalel adam shelo tavot hakala al yado." When people do things, they think they're doing something for good. They don't realize that sometimes bad things happen to it. The Sefer Hasidim says, "Kagon HaMelech Asa bor berama." He built a bore to help the Ole Regalim, but eventually, Milu Yishmael ben Netanya Chalalim. Eventually, later on when Gedaliah was murdered, the bore was used for corpse. And why did Asa merit this? Lefi shechata asher nishan al ben Hadad melech Aram. Gilgalu zel yado. We're going to learn later on tonight that rather than having bitachon and Hashem, Asa relied on bribing one of the neighboring kings. So this lack of bitachon led to this thing that Asa built that he thought was for good to end up to be bad.
So, Ernie, ain't something al hanes, right? And where does his shadler come into play? Maybe he felt, he needed to do his part,
He did. So I'm saying we need to do ishtadlus,
but he
But-
was punished. He was punished for it.
not for this. We're going to see later
For
on.
not having pitachon, for making.
Later on, he bribes a neighboring king. And that act, Chazal say, Melgaglin schut ayadei zakai, the chova ayadei chayiv. That means good things happen to people that they're always doing good. And bad things happen to people when they do bad. So that's what happened to Asa. And we can see Asa is really described as a righteous king. So, but we've seen throughout our Navi Shiurim that Hashem judges tzaddikim very, very kechut asara. And it's another example of this. Now here comes the story. Pasuk Yud Ches. Vayikach Asa et kol hakesef v'zahav anotarim b'otzrot Beit Hashem. Last week we learned that Sheshach, Melech Mitzrayim, came and had taken a lot of the riches, including Shlomo Melech's throne, back to Mitzrayim. I guess there was some gold and silver left in the treasure of the Beis Hamikdash and in the palace. That's a Trot Beis HaMelech. Vayitneim biyad avadav. He gave the gold and silver to his messengers. Vayishlachem HaMelech Asa el ben Hadad ben Tavrimon ben Chezyon Melech Aram hayoshev b'Damesek lemor. So Aram is Syria. The capital of Aram is Damascus, a very ancient city. And Ben Hadad is the king of Aram. Asa sends this money, we'll see why, to the king of Aram. And he did it l'tovat malchut. That's why he's called here Asa Melech. He is under threat now by Basha Melech Yisrael, who has invaded Judea and has built this tower to basically destroy Malchus Yehuda and the Beis Hamikdash. And he's now trying to enlist Ben Hadad as an ally to help him get rid of Basha. The Navi later on is going to chastise him for doing this. His kavanah was good. It said in Pasuk Yudalid, Levav Asa haya shalem im Hashem, kol yamav. The Gra points out that Asa only had good in mind. And he was a shogeg. We're going to see the Navi describes him as a chote, that he was not boiteach ba'Hashem, but he really had a good intention. What did Asa say to Ben Hadad? Yotes, bris beini u'beinecha. There should be a covenant between us. There was a covenant bein avi u'bein avicha. There was also a covenant between our parents. So what is this money? Hinei shalachti lecha shochad kesef v'zav. I'm sending you a gift of silver and gold. Lech hafeira et britcha et Basha melech Yisrael v'yaleh me'aleh. I want you to break the covenant you have with Basha melech Yisrael, so that Basha leaves attacking my kingdom. He didn't ask Ben Hadad to fight with Basha, just that he shouldn't help him. Without the help, Basha will leave. The Malbim says, if the reason you, Ben Hadad, are helping Basha is because you have a covenant, well, let's have a covenant between me and you as well. And our covenant will be stronger. Why? Because there was a covenant between my father and your father, which the father of Basha didn't have. His father was not a melech. If he promised you gold and silver, look, I'm sending you gold and silver. And that's the reason that you should break your covenant with Basha. Now, you notice the word shochad. So shochad usually means bribery. It looks like it wasn't a degrading thing for foreign kings to accept shochad.
Like a mercenary army.
The Kli Yakar says exactly like what Bernie says. Shalach lo kesef ve'ad ha'otzaot she'el ben Hadad lavit tzva'av lilchom keneged Basha. To pay him back, that there's going to be costs if Ben Hadad's going to bring his army to travel through Judea. So he wants to mitigate those costs. Now, are you allowed to make a bris, a covenant, with non-Jewish kings? It says in Sefer Dvarim, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Beis, Lo sichros lahem bris v'lo sechanim. Don't make a covenant with the non-Jewish nations. And we know Asa was a tzaddik. In Divrei Yomim, the Navi Hanani is mochiach Asa, that he was not boiteach b'Hashem, and that he went to Ben Hadad, and that he was punished. That the Malchus Yehuda didn't. We're going to go into this a little bit. The Malchus Yehuda was supposed to come back totally during the time of Asa, but the punishment was so great that the kingdom remained divided. That means Shlomo HaMelech was married to Bas Paro for 36 years. So the decree that there should be a split in the kingdom between Judea and Israel was supposed to only be for 36 years. And during the rule of Asa, was supposed to come back to Asa. But because of this lack of bitachon, look at this. Klal Yisrael remains divided in perpetuity. Since the Malchus didn't come back, the 10 tribes remained in the north and were taken prisoner by Sancheriv in 702 BCE. Just an amazing, these little events, how the import of them, what eventually comes out. So we asked already this question about making a covenant with foreign kings when Shlomo HaMelech made a covenant with Hiram Melech Tzor. So one shita is the Isser to make a bris is only with the Shiva Ha'amim, the Emori, the Chivi, the Yevusi, only the 7 nations that lived in Canaan. The other shot is there's only an Isser bris if the bris is going to be done to worship Avodah Zarah. But here there was no worship of Avodah Zarah. And the Malbim says further that he didn't request Ben Hadad to fight against Basha, just that he wouldn't help him. So it's not really a military bris. Pasuk Chaf. Vayishma Ben Hadad el Melech Asa. The Ben Hadad listened to Melech Asa. Vayishlach et Sarech Chaylim Asher Lo al Arei Yisrael. He actually sent an army into the 10 tribes. Vayach et Iyon ve'et Dan. Dan was one of the places where remember, Yeravam had set up 2 egels. So one of the egels was in Dan. This was destroyed. Vet Avel Beit Macha, vet Kol Kinrot, I'll call Eretz Naphtali. Beit Macha was the place where the revolt of Sheva ben Bichri occurred. That was another revolt against David HaMelech. So this is Bahat. Remember, Basha is in Yerushalayim trying to attack it. Now in his rear, because Dan is to the north. So Basha hears this. Vayi kishmoa Basha, vayechdal mibnot etarama vayeshev b'tirtza. He immediately stops building this tower in Jerusalem and returns to his capital city of Tirza. So the activity of Asa worked. It got rid of Basha.
Bernie, can I just tell you something from the Mayam lawyers that really is an interesting analogy? This is apparently what Asa did, where he decided not to rely on having bitachon and Hashem's making his army victorious, is a repetition of what has gone on previously. And Hanani Haroah, the prophet, told him that he had sinned by relying, as you said, by relying on men and his own military prowess rather than relying on a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Then he brings, the Mayam always brings the example of Shaul HaMelech, who in a similar way lost his kingdom for failing to destroy Amalek. Had he accepted God's decree, he could have completed his reign and be succeeded by his faithful son-in-law David, who became HaMelech. By rejecting God's decree, he brought unnecessary sorrow upon himself, his family, and the Jewish people. Then he brings another example. The Jewish people also sinned at the time of the Meraglim, who came and gave bad advice about going to Eretz Yisrael, because not listening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and instead they were punished by being forbidden to enter the land of Eretz Yisrael. They refused to accept God's decree. They tried to enter the land on their own and were immediately repulsed. So bringing multiple examples of what happens when people don't listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu or what the Navi tells them.
Right. And here there was no tzivoy given to Asa. This is Asa's making some kind of strategic move, and it's considered, based on the level of the tzaddik that he was, he probably didn't need to do it. He had enough connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have saved him without it. Obviously.
Unfortunately, he punished Hanani, the Roa, the seer, who told him about his having sinned, and instead of doing tshuva, he put Hanani in prison for the rest of his life.
Like, not a good
I'll
move.
tell you that when you challenge the ruler.
Truth to power. Okay, Pasuk Chav Beis. V'amelech asa hishmiya et kol Yehuda ein naki. He puts out a message that all Judeans need to come to Yerushalayim. Ein naki means no one's exempt. What for? To clean up. Vayisu et avnei harama v'etzeha. There was this huge construct that Basha Melech tried to build to attack the fortifications of the walls of Jerusalem. So it had to be removed. Asher Bana Basha. And they used the building material. Vayiven Bama Melech Asa, et Geva Binyamin, the Et HaMitzpah. These two cities were built up for, I guess, to prevent future attacks by other enemies. Now it's interesting because he considers this to be a sakona nefashos, and that's why he doesn't exempt anybody from coming to work in this project, to use these materials to help fortify the other cities. Rashi brought from Seder Olam, the Milchama Zu Ben Asa Labashai Tabishnas Tetzayin L'Malchut Asa, was in the 16th year of Asa's rule, which was Shehi Shnat Lamed Vav Mechalukat HaMlucha. That was 36 years when Yeravam first split off the 10 tribes. The Re'uya Haytam Lucha Lachzor La'asa. And really now was the time for the Melucha to come back completely to the Judaic kings. Hainu Yehuda la'achar lama vav shana ki mispar zehu kineged hashanim shaya Shlomo nasui lebat Paro. Paro was married. Shlomo was married to Bat Paro 36 years. Shenasa bishnat revit l'malcho malach 40 shana. He married her in the 4th year of his reign, and he ruled for 40 years. So this bris that Asa did with Ben Hadad, they lost the opportunity for the kingdom to come together. Kav Gimel. V'yeter kol divrei Asa v'chol gvurato. All the other things that happened with Asa, v'kol asher Asa, the arim asher bana, the cities he built, Elohim haksivim al sefer divrei yamim l'malchei Yehuda. They're also written in a special sefer for the Judaic kings. We're told that when he became old, he became sick with his feet. Rashi says podagra. Podagra, we know, is Latin for gout. Now, why did this happen? So the Gemara in Sota, Yud Amid Aleph, Dorish Rava, Nenash Asa. Why was Asa punished where he became sick, where he had gout? Mipnei Asa Angaria. Angaria is a draft. He drafted the Talmidei Chachamim because when he called for the people to come to clean out this structure, he did not exempt the Talmidei Chachamim. The Gemara there says, "My einaki." Even a chassan who just got married, because it says in Dvorim, "Naki iyeh lebeito shana echat v'simach et ishtar lakach." One of the exemptions to join the Jewish army is if you're in the Shana Rishona. If you're in the first year of your marriage, you're allowed to stay home. And there it also uses the word naki. So that's why the Gemara sees the limud that even a chassan and a kala who were celebrating their wedding was called to do this work. The Maharsha says specifically, The Asa Gazer Bein al Tamadi Chachamim, Uvein al Chasam Mechupaso. Sheyavo lavodas avodah zos. Now, does that mean that Talmidei Chachamim are potter from the army? So it's very relevant today. That yes, Talmidei Chachamim are ptur min hatzava. But it seems from the Torah, only Chasan Mechupaso is potter. But doesn't say Talmid Chacham is potter. So listen to what Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky in the Emes Liakov brings. Kabbalah Haisa me'Avram Avinu, shetalmidei Chachamim einam yotzim lamilchama. We have a Masorah that Talmidei Chachamim do not go to war. Kidi Isa and the Dorim Lamed Beis Amid Aleph. Amar Vavo Amar Belazar. Mipnei man ne'anash Avram Avinu. Why was Avram Avinu punished? V'nishtabdu banav lemitzrayim mosayim ve'eser shanim. And that his descendants had to be slaves in Egypt for 210 years. Mipnei she'asa angaria v'tamei chachamim. He drafted Tamei Chachamim into the war. Shene'amar vayarek eschanitzchav yilidei beso. When he went to recapture Lot from the Battle of the Kings, he drafted everyone, including the Tamei Chachamim. And the same Geder, that there's a Petur for Tamei Chachamim, the Rambam talks about Shevet Levi in the same way. The Rambam, in Hilchos Shmita v'Yovel, says, Lama lo zacha Levi, b'nachalat Eretz Yisrael, u'v'vizata imecha. Why was Shevet Levi? They did not get a portion in Eretz Yisrael. Mipnei shehuvdal lavot et Hashem l'sharto. Shevet Levi is set aside to worship Hashem. Ulaharot rachava yesharim ushmatav tzadikim l'rabim. And they are to teach the Torah to the public. Like it says in Zosa Bracha, in the Bracha LeLevi, Yoru mishpatecha liYaakov, v'toratcha liYisrael. The word Yoru, from Yoredeya, from Moreh, that the job of the Leviim is to serve as the Torah teachers. Lefichach, huvdelu midarkei olam, lo orchin milchama kishar Yisrael. They don't go to war. That's the Rambam. V'lo nochlin v'lo zochin latzman v'koach gufan. They don't take possession of the land. Eloheim chel Hashem. They're considered soldiers of Hashem. Shenemar, the same source. Barech Hashem chelo. V'hu baruchu zoichelem shenemar anichal katz v'nach lasecha. V'lo shevet Levi bilvad, says the Rambam. Ela kol ish ve'ish, mikol bayei olam, asher nadvar rucho oto, ve'evinu midei li badel amod lifnei Hashem l'sharto v'lovdol adeas Hashem. Any person who decides to give his life to Hashem, to sit in yeshiva and learn, uparak me'ol savaro ol ha'cheshbonot harabim, harezen itkadesh kadosh kadoshim, v'yeh Hashem chalko. V'yizkelo b'olam hazeh, davar maspik lo, k'mo shezochel l'kohanim l'alvim. Such a person, Hashem will give him what he needs in this world, the way he made sure that the Kohanim and the Leviim would get in this world as well. So, mi shetorato umnato, dino keben Levi upatur min hatzava. So what is this special midah keneged midah that Asa was struck on his feet? Well, like gout, your big toe is inflamed, and it's with your feet. So ma midah keneged midah, that Asa was punished baragla because he drafted the Tamei Chachamim. So Rav Schwab, Talmidei Chachamim, hem tamid yeshiva. Umekomam hakavua lilmod nikra yeshiva. Where does a Talmid Chacham learn? In a yeshiva. It's not that they sit, but they're in a quiet sviva. It means it's a meyushav. Someone has said to have a meyushav das, you have calm mind. They learn b'yeshiva das. V'yicholim lishkol kol davar v'davar al mito. That you don't have pressure, so you can weigh the various things you're thinking about in Torah. Ve'ein lahem davar shemeisich et datam min halimud. There's nothing that disturbs their mind. So says Rab Shrab Yeshlomar, b'masha bitel asa et hachachamim in hayeshiva, v'yitzrich otam lelech lavoda l'shtatef b'binyan hazu, because Asa made them leave the yeshiva to work in his job, ne'enash, shaya lecholi b'raglav v'lo yachol leilech. The Chomat Anach says, Kol ha'olam omeid al shlosha regalim, al Torah v'al avodah v'al gemilut chasadim, and he was mezalzel b'regel echad, which is Torah, so he was punished on his regel. The Ralbag says he was punished on his regel, ki hu shalach zeh el ben Hadad, ki ilu lo haya lo raglaim l'lechat b'milchama. He sent the money to Ben Hadad because he himself didn't have the legs to go out to do war. And there Hashem made Mida Keneged Mida, Shechalash Koach Raglav Le'edzik Nato. It again is part of that onesh that he wasn't Potech B'Hashem B'Milchama. By the way,
Ernie, sorry.
oh yes, go ahead.
It's not just that he gave paid off the Melech Aram. He took them from the Otzot of the Beit Hamikdash. Those were the belongings of the Beit Hamikdash, the silver and the gold. So I wonder whether that has a
So
certain.
wasn't that for him to be
significance.
able to use at his discretion? For whatever the needs were?
But they said there was no Me'ilah in it because it was like Sakanat Foshos to try to save Yerushalayim from being destroyed. But that may be part of the Chet, Bernie. By the way, that which we just said, that we don't draft Talmidei Chachamim, that's Lashita Habavli. But the Yerushalmi there in Sota is a machlokas Rav Chizr Rav Yehuda, whether Talmidei Chachamim go out for Mechemes Mitzvah to protect the Eretz Yisrael. So there is a sheet in Yerushalmi that the Talmidei Chachamim also go out to war. By the way, let's remember, a Gemara we learned before, Sanhedrin Mem Chet Samud Beis. Om Rav Yehuda Marav, Kol Kloloi Shekil El David Es Yoav, Niskaimo Bezar Shel David. Remember, David HaMelech cursed Yoav in Shmuel Beis. It said, Al Yikaret Mi Beit Yoav Zav Umitzorah, that in the house of Yoav should always be Zav, Mitzorah, Umachzik Bapelech. And Machzik Bapelech is Me'asa. Dichsiv Rak Le'etzik Nator Chalat Raglav, On Rav Yehuda Marav, Sha'achzu Padagra, which is gout. So the various klolos that David did to Yoav eventually came back and affected his family as well. By the way, in Divrei Hayamim, it says something else. It says, Vayachala asa b'shnat 39 l'malchuto b'raglav. V'gam b'chal yav lo darash et Hashem. Ki barofim. He did not daven to Hashem, he went to the doctors. Says the Metzudas David there, Sam bitchono b'rofim levadam. He placed his trust only in the doctors. So what is the Hashkavas HaTorah regarding going to doctors? Oh my God. Aaron, I'm teaching right now. Let me call you back at 8 o'clock, okay? Thank you. I have to go with him to get the gun.
You're not,
Tomorrow's gonna be a disaster.
you're not going.
Ayin Rambam, okay.
You're not going.
But Ernie, aren't the doctors the shluchim of Hashem in a way? I mean, so
Okay, so let's see what the Hashkavas, let's see what the Ramban says about this. This is in Vayikra Chavav. Ki biyot Yisrael shleimim lo yitnaheg inyanam b'teva klal lo b'gufam lo bartzam v'lo b'yachid mehem ki varech Hashem lachmam u'meimam. The Ramban says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has blessed Klal Yisrael that they don't have to rely on teva. V'yasir machala mikirbam ad shelo yitztarchu l'rofeh. They won't need doctors. Like it says, Ki ani Hashem rofecha. V'chein hayu hatzadikim osim b'zman hanavua. Gam ki yikram avon sheyichlu, if through their sin they got sick, lo yidrushu berofim rak b'neviim. They didn't go to doctors. They went to the Nevi'im. Where do we see? By Chizkiyahu HaMelech. We're going to learn in Melachim Beis where Chizkiyahu went to Nevi'im. While here, by Asa, the Rambam points out, Lo darash es Hashem ki berofim. So going to a doctor, according to the Ramban, was a taina against Asa. Now, the Rambam, that you should know, the Ramban was a doctor too. It's not just that because the Rambam is a doctor, because the Ramban was a doctor too. But in the Perush HaMishnayos, in Psochim, he says, the Rambam says, Shekamosha Adam Ra'ev, Ochel Lechem, Umodeh Hashem Shizminu Talechem. This is a little bit like what Johnny said. Just like a person who's hungry, he eats bread and he thanks Hashem that bread was given to him. And that's not v'lo chashuv kechaser b'bitachon. That's not considered any lack of bitachon. Gam ha'olech l'rofeh came. Umodeh Hashem shizmin livnei adam chochmat ha'refuah. A person going to a doctor and he's healed, and that person thanks Hashem that he provided for human beings the chokhmah refuah. So based on the Rambam, the taina on Asa Melech is that he relied on the doctors completely without thinking that the refuah came from Hashem. I just want to make another statement. There is a statement called Tov Sheberofim Legehenim. That's a Maimer Chazal. The best of the doctors Legehenim. Now, how do we explain that? I once heard a very good explanation. The word Tov is Bigematria 17. So Shmona Esrei has 18 brachos, not 17. One of the brachos is Rifa'enu. So a doctor who says Shmona Esrei and really only has kavana during 17 of the brachos, Tov Sheberofim, those doctors that when they daven Shmona Esrei, they really only believe in the 17. Because the 18th bracha, Rifa'enu, they say, no, the refuah comes from me, not from Hashem. Such a doctor, Tov Sheberofim Legeno. But right, those doctors that when they daven Shmona Esrei, they have kavana during Rifa'enu that they know that the refuah comes from Hashem. That doctor doesn't necessarily go Leganim. That's an explanation.
Apologetics.
And again, no, that's how I've heard it explained to me, because it's a very harsh statement otherwise. But you could see that doctors could fall into that trap of Ki b'chayil, lo b'chayil, lo b'koch, ella. That means kochi v'otzem yadi. They might think that it's their studying for all the years, etc. Doctors can fall into that trap very easily.
Well, a lot of doctors think they're God.
So that's why there's
And a
the-
lot of patients think they know better.
No, but it's true. Some of these doctors, not all of them, some of them.
right. Okay, so this is the Hashkafas HaTorah that it looks like during the time of the Nevi'im, when there was more of a connection, spiritual connection between the people and Hashem, they would go to Nevi'im rather than to the doctors. By the time of the Rambam, it was less. There was, we see more reliance on natural and on medical science to heal people. Pasuk Chavdal. Vayishkav Asayim Avotav. Vayikaverim Avotav. Asa passes on, and he's buried Be'ir David Aviv. Vayimloch Yehoshaphat b'no Tachtav. Yehoshaphat HaMelech rules after Asa. Pasuk Chafei.
Ernie, can I
Yes.
chime in a bit?
Please.
Just a few things I wanted to point out. Number one, there was a debate about something called the Melkart Stela. So Stela is a monument, typically historically erected by a king. There was something called the Melkart Stela, which read the Stela which Bar Hadad, son of, and the name was left blank, or is no longer survived, king of Aram, erected to his lord Melkart, to whom he made a vow and averted his voice. There was a debate around whether this is the Bar Hadad of the Tanakh. It's generally considered not, but it is something that is debated.
Shaya, where is this steel found?
It was found in Syria.
In Syria.
Northern-
Okay, so goes along with the Metzek.
Yeah, so the consensus generally is that it is not this king, but it was one that was kind of within the running for it. I also want to point out two locations. So number one, let me look back here about Asa.
He built up Geva, we
built
said,
up
and
Mitzvah.
Mitzvah.
He built up Mitzvah. The general consensus is that Mitzvah is a location found north of Yerushalayim today, Mitzvah of Binyamin. And there was a debate about what location is generally thought to be a place by the name of Tel and Nazbeh. And one of the reasons they think that was ancient Mitzvah was that there are fortifications built up. And one of the things that it says here in this parak is that Asa built up those fortifications. And another location I would like to talk about is Tirzah. So when Basha heard this, he stopped building and he withdrew to Tirzah. Tirzah is thought to be a location in the Palestinian territories, a spot by the name of Tel El Farah. Now, one of the problems with any of these ancient places is that there's no place name. So sometimes they'll rely upon, if the name is similar to what it was in the past, they assume that names are sticky. So names very often, Damascus has been one of the oldest cities on the planet, and it's carried its name, from antiquity. But there's a thought that Tel El Farah is the ancient city of Tirzah. It's actually a place that's run by Palestinian archaeologists, but most of these places are run by Israeli archaeologists. So these are three things that are in this parak that may have some modern day evidence for.
Very good. Very, very outstanding. Outstanding. Okay, Pasuk Chafei. You see that these prakim go back and forth between the Judaic kings and the Israelite kings. V'nadav ben Yeravam, Melech al Yisrael, Bishnat Shtayim la'asa Melech Yehuda. He ruled in the second year of Asa. Vayimloch al Yisrael Shnatayim. Nadav ruled for 2 years.
Let me add to that just a second.
Please.
Just while you're pointing this out, I don't know if this is well understood, but one of the differences between the Melachim Aleph and Melachim Beis and Divrei Hayamim Aleph Beis is Divrei Hayamim focuses much more on the kings of Yehuda than it does on the kings of Yisrael. So in many ways, the two mirror each other. In many ways, a lot of this information about Malchus Yisrael is absent in Divrei Hayamim.
When we learned our introduction, Shaya, the Yirmiyahu Navi wrote Melachim, and Ezra Sofer is considered to be the author of Divrei Hayamim. And the whole intent of why they wrote it speaks to what you just said, because Ezra Sofer's intent was to strengthen the Davidic dynasty. That was one of the pshatim that we started with. And
Yep.
that's why there's so much emphasis on only the Judaic kings and
Right.
not the Israelite kings.
Okay.
So this Nadav, Pasuk Chavav, Vayasara b'nei Hashem, was evil. Vayelech b'derech aviv, and he followed his father Yeravam. Ub'chatasah asher echti et Yisrael, and the same way that Yeravam sinned and caused Jews to sin, he did the same thing. Now, what is this? The word chataso. What is? How do we focus on that? So we learned this Gemara before. Yuma Lamed Vav Amid Beis. Tanya. Avonot elu azdonot. An avon is something that you do b'mezi. That means you know it's wrong to do, and you do it anyways. Pshaim elu hamiradim. A pesha is when you do a sin because you are mamish trying to revolt against Hashem. Chatos elu ashkagos. A chet is something that you do, either you don't know that it was a chet. So it's not, you're doing a sin without knowing that it's a sin that you're doing it. Now, you notice the Navi here describes what Nadav and Yeravam had done as a chet, which it sounds like it's minimizing what they actually did. Now, perhaps no, because Yeravam, when we started learning about Yeravam, even though Yeravam knew when he put up those agolim that he was doing it l'shem avodah zarah, the people at that time thought that it was tim l'shem shamayim. So perhaps it's okay to use the word ched here. Now, it's very hard. That could be maybe by the time of Yeravam, but now Nadav, who's following in the father's footsteps, where they had the whole life of Yeravam, certainly now they're doing this avodah zarah b'mezi, and the Am is doing the same thing. So why are they using chataso? So in Shmos, where we read about the Yud Gimel Midas, it says Notzer Chesed Lalafim, Nosei Avon Vafesha V'Chata'a. Now that order, based on what we just learned, is not appropriate. Avon is b'mezid, Pesha is with revolt. Chata, again, how could that be that order? If Chet is Shogeg, it should have been before Avon and Pesha. The Gemara actually in Yom Lamed Vav brings this kasha. And Amar Moshe l'Tekadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, B'shah Yisrael choyti lefanecha v'osin tshuva, aseh lehem zdonos kishkokos. If the Jewish people sin, but they do tshuva, their mezids become like shkaga. And so the word chata is not like the word chet. Chet means shogeg, but chata means you're doing it to lahachis, that it's even worse than merit. That's how the Sforno learns there. So here it says chataso, it's not a regular shogeg, it's talking about doing a chet to be machis Hashem. And the Emek, the Netziv, the Emek Dover learns the same way. Okay. So Chav Zayin, the king of Israel now is Nadav. It's not Basha. Basha comes next. We were told the story about Basha fighting Asa when we were looking at the life of Asa. But now we've switched. We're going in chronological order that the first Israelite king to rule during Asa was Nadav. Now Vayikshor alav Basha ben Achia lebeit Yisachar. Vayikshor means they planned a coup, a palace coup, a plot. And Basha was not the son of the king. He was from Achia, from the Shevet Yisachar. Vayakeyu Basha begipton asher leplishtim. V'nadav v'chol Yisrael tzarim al Gibton. Basha and his plotters go down to Gibton, where Nadav and the Jewish people are fighting the Plishtim. Vayimiteyu Basha, and Basha killed him. Bishna Shalos la'asa melech Yehuda v'imlach tachtav. And Basha took over as king of the Israelites of the 10 Shvatim in the 3rd year of Asa's reign, and he ruled after Nadav. Since Nadav continued in the path of his father, so the klala that Achia Shiloni gave to the wife of Yeravam, that all of his descendants are going to die, it's coming true. That's if Nadav would have done tshuva, the klala wouldn't have come into play. But because he continued to do evil, the klala was mekuyim. Now, pasuk chavtes, vahi kemalcho, when Basha ruled, he ka et kol beit Yeravam. It wasn't enough that he killed Nadav. He hunted down every descendant of Yeravam. Lo yishir kol neshama Yeravam ad ishmido. He wiped out all of the generations of Yeravam. Kidvar Hashem, asher diber biyad avdo Achia Shiloni. This was the nevuah that Achia Shiloni had given to the wife of Yeravam that we learned a few weeks ago. Al chatot Yeravam asher chata, because of all the sins, asher echtiet Yisrael, and that he caused Jewish people to sin, and b'kaso asher echisat Hashem lokei Yisrael, which led Hashem to be anger against Klal Yisrael. Now, Basha did this to strengthen his own malchus. This is now Shakespearean. That means the famous Shakespearean plays that we're all used to, Richard III, with one king killing his brothers and the children and the nephews and everybody. It's all learned from Tanakh, that he did not want any sarit upalit from the family of Yeravam who could claim he's coming not from a royal family, he's coming from Shevet Yisachar, from nowhere. So he wiped out the descendants of Yeravam to protect his malchus. He wasn't being mekayim the nevuah of Achia. He did it to strengthen his own malchus. By the way, the Kli Yakar says that Basha killed it l'shem shamayim, that he knew about the nevuah, and that his killing of the mishpachat Yeravam was l'shem shamayim. Because you see, he killed the Noshim too. The women were killed. Women don't rule as kings. He did it to be Makayim, says the Kli Yakar of the Nevuah of Achia. And that's the only thing that he did l'shem shamayim. Because it says, Vayasara b'nei Hashem. Pasuk Lamed Aleph. V'yeser divrei Nadav. Right? Nadav was just killed. But any other historical fact of Nadav v'chol asher asa, halohem ksuvim al sefer divrei yamim l'malchei Yisrael. This is that other book. There was a divrei yamim l'malchei Yisrael. There was a divrei yamim l'malchei Yehuda. Nadav, being a king of Yisrael, is put in the divrei yamim of Malchei Yisrael. Then we get a repetitive pasuk. U'milchama itza bein asa uvein Basha melech Yisrael kol yemeim. We had this pasuk already, but that pasuk was when we were looking from the vantage point of Asa. Now that we're in the rule of Basha, we're told the same thing. Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Bishna Shalosh La'asa Melech Yudah. It was in the third year of Asa's reign. Malach Basha ben Achia called Yisrael betirza, like Shaya told us Tirza, Esrim va'arba shana. Basha ruled for 24 years. Pasuk Lamed Daled, Vayas hara b'nei Hashem, Vayelech b'derech Yeravam, u'v'chataso asher hechtiet Yisrael. Basha remained evil. And just to give us a start to next week, Perek Tet Zayin, Vayhi dvar Hashem el Yehu ben Chanani al Basha lemor. Yehu ben Chanani is a Navi. And by the way, his father was also a Navi. How do we know that? Chazal in Vayikra Rabbah say, Rav Yochanan, Kol Navi, Shenispare Shmo, V'nispare Shem Aviv, Navi uben Navi. Whenever you see in the Tanakh a Navi, the son of somebody, that means he was a Navi and his father was a Navi. Kol Navi Shenispare Shmo, V'lo nispare Shem Aviv, Hu Navi, V'aviv Eino Navi. Whenever you're given the name of a Navi, without the father, then you know that only he's the Navi and not the father. So, what is the Nevuah? Pasuk Beis. Yana shehari mosicha min ha'afar. Despite the fact that I raised you to king from the dirt, you're nobody. V'etnecha nagid al ami Yisrael. And I made you king. Yet, Batelech b'derech Yeravam, you're going in the ways of Yeravam. Vatachti et ami Yisrael achiseni b'chatotam. You're causing my nation to sin and to anger me because of the sins. Hineni mavir achrei basha v'achrei beso. I'm going to destroy you from the world, like mavir, from like a destruction. It's the same lashon that Achia Sheloni used when he was talking to Yeravam. V'achrei beito, v'natati et beitcha kebeit Yeravam ben Nevat. And I'm going to cause the same thing that happened to Yeravam's family to happen to your family, just like I caused the destruction of Yeravam's family, so too your house will be destroyed. It says in Avos to Rav Nosson, Rav Shimon Elazar Omer, Yeravam, Achav, Menashe, Basha, the Achazia, the Chol Malchei Yisrael Sheyirshiu, and all the Melech Yisraels that were sinners, Ein Lahem Chelek La'olam Haba. And Basha is included in the name. Now, those of you who've learned Sanhedrin, Perek Chelek, that shita isn't the same. There it says only 3 kings: Yeravam, Achav, Umenashe. Ein Lahem Chelek La'olam Haba. Okay. We're going to stop here. We'll continue next week, same time, 7 o'clock. Any questions, comments, Ha'arot? Thank you, Shai, again for your contributions. Thank you, everybody else. Everybody have a good week.
Shavua Tov, Ernie.
Shavua
Shavua
Tov.
Tov.
Thank you.
Shavua Tov. It wasn't so good to be